You'd probably agree that it's always easier to start something than it is to finish it.
Hillsong, Mars Hill, Willow Creek, Gateway, now Saddleback. 5 megachurch empires, all built on the same model, all collapsed. The pattern is impossible to ignore. And Rick Warren's fall reveals exactly why the megachurch system is breaking. Here's what really happened. In 1980, Rick Warren arrived in Orange County, California, with almost nothing. No building, no congregation, no money, just his wife, Kay, and a Bible. But Warren had something most pastors didn't: a strategy. He grabbed a clipboard and knocked on doors. He asked strangers one simple question: why don't you go to church? The answers changed everything. People said church was boring, too religious, didn't help their real problems. Warren listened. Then he built a church designed around those answers. He created an imaginary person called Saddleback Sam. Sam was busy, stressed, skeptical of religion, looking for practical help with marriage, money, and meaning. And every single decision at Saddleback filtered through one question: would this work for Sam? The sermons, written for Sam. The music, chosen for Sam. Even the parking lot, designed for Sam. On Easter Sunday, 1980, Warren held his first public service in a high school theater. 205 people showed up. Most had never been to church before. The formula was working. But here's what nobody talks about. From day one, Warren's church wasn't built on doctrine. It was built on demand, what people wanted. But what felt comfortable, what removed barriers. This wasn't traditional church growth. This was market research. And the market was about to explode. Within one generation, Saddleback grew to over 30,000 weekly members. Warren baptized 56,000 people. His book sold 50 million copies in 137 languages. He trained 400,000 pastors in 162 countries. In 2009, he delivered the prayer at President Obama's inauguration. Rick Warren wasn't just a pastor anymore. He was America's pastor. But the same model that built the empire contained the seeds of its destruction, and the first cracks were already forming. Critics saw the problems long before the public did. In 2007, Reformed theologian Michael Horton appeared on CBS's 60 Minutes. He called Warren's message one word: heresy. He accused Saddleback of replacing the gospel with self-help therapy. John MacArthur went further. And in his book, Ashamed of the Gospel, he argued that seeker-friendly churches like Saddleback were fundamentally incompatible with Scripture. The Bible wasn't meant to be comfortable. It was meant to be true. These weren't small voices. These were heavyweight theologians with massive followings. And they were asking dangerous questions. What happens when you build a church around what people want instead of what they need? What happens when comfort becomes the goal? When surveys shape sermons? Warren dismissed the criticism. The numbers spoke for themselves. Thousands saved. Millions of books sold. Pastors trained worldwide. But then came April 5th, 2013. That day, Rick and Kay Warren's youngest son, Matthew, took his own life. He was 27 years old. Matthew had battled severe depression for years. The Warrens had access to the best doctors, the best counselors, unlimited resources. None of it was enough. Rick Warren stepped away from preaching for 4 months. He later said he cried every single day after Matthew died. Kay said they were not the same people anymore. The tragedy cracked something open. Warren started speaking about mental health in churches. He called it the last taboo. He launched conferences bringing pastors and clinicians together. For many, this revealed a different Rick Warren, not the confident empire builder, a broken father searching for meaning in unimaginable loss. But while Warren grieved, the theological critics grew louder. They pointed to Robert Schuller, the positive-thinking preacher who influenced Warren's early methods. Schuyler's Crystal Cathedral had already collapsed into bankruptcy. Was Saddleback next? The answer would come, but not how anyone expected. It wouldn't be scandal that broke the empire. It wouldn't be money problems. It would be something Warren chose to do. A decision that seemed small at the time. 3 women, 1 Sunday, and a denomination ready to draw a line. Mother's Day, 2021. Saddleback Church made an announcement that would cost them everything. 3 women, Liz Puffer, Cynthia Petty, Katie Edwards, all ordained as pastors. The church posted it on social media. They celebrated it publicly. Rick Warren called it obedience to Scripture. For the Southern Baptist Convention, this was war. The Baptist Faith and Message 2000 is clear. The office of pastor is limited to men. Period. No exceptions. No debate. If Saddleback had just crossed a line 47 million Southern Baptists considered non-negotiable, the Credentials Committee launched an investigation. By February 2023, the verdict came down. Saddleback Church was no longer in friendly cooperation with the Southern Baptist Convention. The largest Protestant denomination in America had just cut ties with its most famous church. But Warren wasn't done fighting. In June 2023, he traveled to New Orleans, and 13,000 Southern Baptist messengers had gathered for the annual meeting. Warren, now retired, stood before them and made his case. His words were careful. I am not asking you to agree with my church. I am asking you to act like a Southern Baptist. It didn't work. The final vote was devastating. 9,437 messengers voted yes to expel Saddleback. Only 1,212 voted no. That's 88.46% against Warren's church. The man who trained 400,000 pastors, the author of 50 million books, and the pastor who prayed at a presidential inauguration, rejected by his own denomination. But the convention wasn't finished. They passed a constitutional amendment. Any church with a woman serving as pastor or elder could no longer be Southern Baptist. The door was sealed shut. Warren had built an empire reaching 162 countries. Now he couldn't even keep membership in his home denomination. And here's what makes this story different from other megachurch collapses. There was no moral failure. No financial scandal, no abuse, cover-up. Warren simply made a choice his denomination couldn't accept. The question nobody was asking, was this really about women pastors? Or was the SBC finally pushing back against the seeker-sensitive model itself? The answer might be both. And what happened next made everything worse. September 2022, Rick Warren handed Saddleback's pulpit to Andy Wood and his wife Stacy. The transition looked smooth, but watch closely. The pattern was already repeating. Stacy Wood became teaching pastor. When the SBC expelled Saddleback, she told reporters she would keep preaching. Andy publicly praised her gifts. He said people often tell him she's better than he is. The church released confident statements. Our best days are ahead. Sound familiar? It should. Hillsong said the same thing before Brian Houston resigned in disgrace. Mars Hill said it before Mark Driscoll's empire imploded. Willow Creek said it before Bill Hybels faced accusations. But Gateway said it before Robert Morris fell. 5 megachurches, 5 charismatic founders, 5 catastrophic endings. The pattern is impossible to ignore. Each church grew fast, really fast. Each concentrated power around one personality. Each built systems designed for scale, not accountability. And each collapsed when pressure came. Critics say the problem isn't the people, it's the model. When one pastor becomes the brand, the church becomes fragile. When growth becomes the measure of faithfulness, compromise creeps in. When surveys shape sermons, doctrine slowly erodes. Warren's clipboard strategy in 1980 seemed brilliant. Ask people what they want. Give it to them. watch the church explode. But 40 years later, the math doesn't work. You can't build an eternal institution on temporary preferences. You can't survey your way to truth. Saddleback still operates today. Thousands still attend. But the purpose-driven blueprint that trained 400,000 pastors, it's suddenly out of favor. Churches worldwide copied Warren's formula. They built their own Saddleback Sams. They designed parking lots and sermon series around market research. They measured success by attendance and baptisms. Now they're watching Saddleback's exile and asking hard questions. If the model failed for Rick Warren, what chance do they have? The answer might be more disturbing than the question. Because what happened at Saddleback isn't an exception. It's a preview. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. Rick Warren didn't fail because he was corrupt. He didn't fail because he stole money. He didn't fail because of hidden sin. He failed because he succeeded. The same methods that built the empire made it impossible to sustain. Survey-driven sermons, consumer-focused worship, barrier-free religion. It worked for 40 years, until it didn't. And now 400,000 pastors worldwide are staring at a blueprint that just got rejected by the largest Protestant denomination in America. Churches built on the purpose-driven model are quietly asking, what do we do now? Some will double down. They'll keep chasing growth metrics and attendance numbers. They'll keep building around what people want. Others are already pivoting, returning to doctrine, choosing conviction over comfort, accepting that smaller might actually be healthier. But here's the real question nobody can answer yet. What happens when the megachurch generation ages out? When the Saddleback Sams, who filled those 30,000 seats, stop coming? When their children reject the model entirely? The data suggests we're about to find out. Church attendance is declining faster than any point in American history. The institutions built on Warren's methods are showing cracks everywhere, and the next collapse might already be forming. The purpose-driven movement promised meaning and growth. It delivered both, for a while. Now the bill is coming due. The only question left, is your church ready to pay it?